Peppa Pig. Peppa's Post. One day, Mr. Zebra the postman delivered a very important letter to Peppa and George's house. "Look, George!" cried Peppa, running to the front door. "It's for us!" grunted George excitedly. "I wonder what's inside." "It's your tickets for Mr. Potato's Marvellous Theatre Show," said Mummy Pig, helping Peppa open the envelope. "Oh, goody!" gasped Peppa. "I love the theatre and I love Mr. Potato." That afternoon, Mammy and Daddy Pig drove Peppa and George to the Grand Theatre to meet Madame Gazelle and their friends. When they arrived, the show was about to start. "Please welcome," said a loud voice, "your friend and mine, Mr. Potato." "Oh, wow!" the children gasped all the way through the show. After it finished, they gave Mr. Potato a huge round of applause, and Madame Gazelle gave everyone a special envelope to take home. Daddy Pig helped Peppa and George read their letter from Madame Gazelle. The next morning, they followed the map to playgroup. "Welcome, little ones," Madame Gazelle beamed after the mummies and daddies had left. "Today we will be putting on a pantomime, and there will be a special guest coming." "Ooh!" everyone gasped. "Now, children," continued Madame Gazelle, "we have lots to do. First, we must make the posters and invitations for the pantomime." When they'd finished, everyone gave their invitations to Mr. Zebra. He raced off to deliver them. The first one was for Mummy and Daddy Pig. Mr. Zebra handed Mummy and Daddy Pig their invitation to the pantomime. "How lovely," said Mummy Pig when she opened the envelope. "Of course we can come." Mummy and Daddy Pig gave their reply to Mr. Zebra, and he raced off to deliver the other invitations. Later that morning, the playgroup doorbell rang. Ding dong! It was Mr. Zebra with an enormous parcel for all the children. "It's a dressing-up box," whispered Peppa to Susie. "A very big one." "Your costumes are here, my little stars," announced Madame Gazelle. The dressing-up box was full of wonderful costumes. Peppa and her friends picked their outfits and got ready. "Now you must practice your lines," said Madame Gazelle. "Peppa, you can start." "I'm Little Red Riding Hood," began Peppa. "I'm going to visit my grandma." Danny Dog was dressed as a big bad wolf. "I'm going to eat Little Red Riding Hood," he barked. "Wonderful acting, Peppa and Danny," said Madame Gazelle. The children were still practicing when the doorbell rang again. Ding dong! "It is Mr. Zebra with more post," announced Madame Gazelle. The children opened the parcel and found replies to their invitations. "Fabulous news!" exclaimed Madame Gazelle. "Everyone can come to our pantomime, even our mystery guest." "Who is the mystery guest, Madame Gazelle?" asked Peppa. "Is it the Queen?" "You will have to wait and see," replied Madame Gazelle. "Oh," sighed Peppa, a little disappointed. It was almost time for the pantomime to start. Everyone was arriving. Peppa peered around the curtain. She could see the mummies and daddies, but she couldn't see a mystery guest. "Please find your programs and take your seats," said Madame Gazelle. "Our pantomime is about to begin." "Ladies and gentlemen," said Madame Gazelle, "welcome to our pantomime." The children leapt onto the stage and everyone stood up to take photos. Click, click, flash, flash. Please, said Madame Gazelle, for the sake of the actors, no photography. The parents quietly sat back down in their chairs and the show began. I'm Little Red Riding Hood, began Peppa. I'm visiting my grandma. I'm the big bad wolf, said Danny. I'm pretending to be grandma, then I'm going to eat everyone. I'm the hunter, said Pedro. I'm chasing the big bad wolf away. Ooh! Wow! The parents gasped all the way through the performance. When the pantomime finished, the children bowed. Everyone gave them a huge round of applause, except for Mr. Zebra, who was so tired from delivering all the letters that he had fallen fast asleep. Where's the mystery guest? Peppa whispered to Susie. Just then the clapping stopped and a loud voice said, Please welcome our special guest, your friend and mine, Mr. Potato. Mr. Potato is more famous than the Queen, whispered Peppa excitedly. What a marvellous performance, said Mr. Potato, leaping up from his hiding place next to the stage. This pantomime was the best I have ever seen. Hooray! Hooray! Cheered the children. They loved their pantomime, but they loved meeting Mr. Potato even more. The end. Peppa Pig, I Can Be Anything. Peppa Pig loves to play dress-up.
Wow.
She uses her imagination to become all kinds of different characters. Mummy and Daddy Pig always tell her she can be anything she wants to be when she grows up. Peppa likes to pretend to be many different things. In dance class, Peppa imagines she is a famous ballerina. On opening night, she wears her favourite tutu and jumps, dances and twirls across the stage. At breakfast time, Peppa imagines she is a chef. Sometimes when Daddy Pig cooks, he needs a little extra help. When Peppa visits Mummy Pig's volunteer firehouse, Peppa imagines she is a firefighter too.
Wow!
In the fire truck, it is Peppa's job to sound the siren as the firefighters rush to the rescue. Wee-oo, wee-oo. At the hospital, while visiting Pedro Pony, Peppa imagines she is a nurse. Open up and say ah, Nurse Peppa says. With Nurse Peppa, a speedy recovery is just around the corner.
Hooray!
At the playground, Peppa imagines she is a construction worker. She helps the construction team fill a hole with cement. She digs, moves, pours, and gets the job done right. When Peppa, George and their friends play make-believe, Peppa imagines she is an astronaut. Peppa and her space team travel to the moon in a rocket ship. 3, 2, 1, blast off! Peppa loves to imagine that she can be anything when she grows up. But for now, she likes to play pretend and have a new adventure every day. The end. Peppa Pig, Grampy Rabbit's Lighthouse. Peppa George and Danny Dog are helping deliver supplies to Grandad Dog's friend, Grampy Rabbit.
Where does Grampy Rabbit live?
asked Peppa. Out at sea on a rock, says Grandad Dog.
On a rock,
says Peppa.
Yes, in that lighthouse,
says Danny.
Wow.
Oh,
gasped Peppa and George. They land at the lighthouse.
Hooray!
Visitors! exclaims Grampy Rabbit. I haven't had visitors in many a moon. I get lonely with just the sea and the sky for company.
how long have you been here?
asked Peppa. Since Tuesday, says Grampy Rabbit. I've got tales to tell, says Grampy Rabbit, if you'd like to hear. No thanks, says Grandad Dog quickly.
Yes, please,
reply Peppa and Danny. Grampy Rabbit starts to sing. I got up this morning, the sea was still there, so was the sky. The sea, the sky, the sea, the sky. Peppa and Danny join in.
Why is your house called a lighthouse?
asked Peppa. I'll show you, says Grampy Rabbit. They climb a staircase to the very top of the lighthouse. It's called a lighthouse because it has this big light at the top, says Grampy Rabbit.
Wow.
It shines through the dark, helping sailors find their way. Grampy Rabbit takes out a megaphone. And when it's foggy, I use this foghorn, he says. Fog!
That's loud,
cries Peppa. No fog today, just sea and sky, says Grampy Rabbit sadly. The stories I could tell. No thanks, says Grandad Dog. We must be going. Peppa George, Danny and Grandad Dog set off for home. It is now very dark. Don't worry, says Grandad Dog. The light from Grampy Rabbit's lighthouse will show us the way home. Grampy Rabbit is ready for bed, so he turns the light out. He also turns the big light out. Grandad Dog phones Grampy Rabbit. Could you turn the big light on again? He asks. The big light shines again.
Hooray!
Cry Peppa and Danny. It is getting foggy,
I can't see the light anymore,
says Peppa. Grandad Dog phones Grampy Rabbit. It's us again, he says. Can you sound the foghorn, please? Fog! Bellows Grampy Rabbit. Fog! Grampy Rabbit's voice is like a foghorn. Thanks to Grampy Rabbit, they arrived back safe on land.
Hooray!
Mummy Pig, Daddy Pig, and Mrs. Dog are waiting to take them home.
We went to a lighthouse,
says Peppa excitedly. Grampy Rabbit's lighthouse guided us home safely, says Grandad Dog.
Grampy Rabbit sang a song. Would you like to hear it?
Asked Peppa. No thanks, says Grandad Dog.
Yes, please,
say the parents. Peppa and Danny sing.
I got up this morning, the sea was still there, so was the sky, the sea, the sky.
The end. Peppa Pig. This book is all about Peppa Pig.
That's me.
Peppa lives with Mummy and Daddy Pig, and her little brother George, and with Goldie, Teddy, and Mr. Dinosaur.
Dinosaur!
At playgroup, Madame Gazelle teaches Peppa and her friends. They paint, play, sing, and do lots of fun things.
Hooray!
Peppa likes dressing up as everything. But her favourite thing to do is jump in muddy puddles. Peppa loves spending time with her granny and grandpa, especially dinner time.
Yummy, my favourite.
Sometimes Peppa has so much fun she doesn't want to go to bed.
This is the best book ever.
But she always enjoys a bedtime story. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa's Castle Adventure. Peppa and George are going to visit a castle today. Maybe we'll see a dragon, says Daddy Pig. Arr, says George. George likes dragons.
Only a pretend dragon,
Says Peppa.
Dragons are not really real.
Daddy Pig parks a car in the car park.
Welcome to the castle tour,
Says Miss Rabbit.
Cars are parked at the owner's risk. What does that mean?
Asks Peppa. Nothing, snorts Daddy Pig. They always say that in car parks. Mr. Rabbit comes out of the castle. He is dressed in armour like a knight. The castle tour starts here, he says. Let's fire the cannon. A cannonball shoots out of the cannon. It flies all the way down to the car park. Boom! Boom! Giggles George. This is where the king and queen would sit, says Mr. Rabbit. It's the throne room.
George can be king and I can be queen, decides Peppa.
May I carry on with the tour, your majesties? Asks Mr. Rabbit.
Yes, giggles Peppa, you may.
Mr. Rabbit opens the door to a secret passageway. It leads to the dining hall. Look at all the food, gasped Daddy Pig.
It's a real banquet,
says Mummy Pig. Peppa picks up a bread roll.
Ugh.
The food is made of plastic. Don't worry, says Miss Rabbit. Your real banquet is coming. Miss Rabbit brings in 4 little boxes. Here we are, she cries. Ye olde cheese sandwich with Jester's pickle.
It's a banquet in a box,
cheers Peppa. And now, says Mr. Rabbit, it's time to meet the dragon. Peppa and George climb to the top of the castle. A huge dragon stomps towards them, with Miss Rabbit waving from the top. The dragon is a robot. The robot dragon marches all the way up to the castle. It's nearly crushed our car, splutters Daddy Pig. Cars are parked at the owner's risk, Miss Rabbit reminds him. Cheers, George. He loves castles. Everyone loves castles. The end. Peppa Pig, Grampy Rabbit in Space. Peppa and her friends are at playgroup. Today they have a special treat. Grampy Rabbit is here to talk about space rockets. Bucket! Snorts George. Hello everybody! Grampy Rabbit shouts. Grampy Rabbit has a very loud voice. He holds up a space rocket. It's a bit small, says Susie Sheep. This is just a model, explains Grampy Rabbit. The rocket I went in was ginormous. Everyone gasps. Grampy Rabbit has flown to the moon in a space rocket. Grampy Rabbit lifts the rocket into the air. When you go into space, you count backwards, he says. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! Peppa and her friends all shout together, blast off! There I was, flying through space, remembers Grampy Rabbit. Ooh, say the children. When I landed on the moon, says Grampy Rabbit, it was so beautiful I was lost for words. That sounds nice, says Madame Gazelle. Grampy Rabbit goes on. Did you know that when you're on the moon, you can jump as high as a house? Suddenly, something strange happens. Grampy Rabbit stops talking. Oh dear, says Madame Gazelle. He has lost his voice. Madame Gazelle asks Dr. Brown Bear to come and help Grampy Rabbit. Dr. Brown Bear looks into Grampy Rabbit's mouth. I see, he says. A very serious case of losing a voice. The doctor pours some special pink medicine onto his spoon. Open wide, he says. Grampy Rabbit swallows the medicine. Try saying, ah, now, says Dr. Brown Bear. The doctor listens carefully. Ah! Booms Grampy Rabbit. The medicine has made his voice much better. Grampy Rabbit gets back to his story. I wrote a song on the moon, he cries. Would you like to hear it? No, thank you, says Madame Gazelle and Dr. Brown Bear. Yes, please, say the children. All together now, sings Grampy Rabbit. I got up this morning, I went to the moon, and all I could see was the moon and the stars, the moon and the stars, the moon and the stars, the moon and the stars. Everybody loves singing along with Grampy Rabbit. Peppa Pig. Peppa meets the Queen. Peppa and her family are watching television. Suddenly, there is a special announcement from the Queen. The Queen! The Queen! Peppa cheers. Hello to you all, the Queen says. Today I have decided to give an award to the hardest working person in the country.
Wow.
The hardest working person in the country is Miss Rabbit. At the supermarket, Miss Rabbit is closing the shop when Mr. Zebra the postman presents her with a golden letter. Miss Rabbit, please come to my palace to get a medal for all your hard work. Bring friends, all the best, the Queen. I can't visit the Queen, I've got too much work to do. Miss Rabbit panics.
Don't worry, Peppa says. The Queen has made it a holiday.
It is the day Miss Rabbit visits the Queen. Peppa and her friends are going to.
We're off to see the Queen, we're off to see the Queen. E-I-A-D-O, we're off to see the Queen.
Here we are, Miss Rabbit squeaks.
Wow.
Look at all the fancy stuff.
Woof, Danny Dog says. Don't touch anything, Miss Rabbit warns.
Where is the Queen?
Emily Elephant asks.
Queen!
Susie Sheep calls.
Where are you?
In another fancy room, there is a lady sitting on a throne knitting.
Hello,
Peppa says.
have you seen the Queen today?
I am the Queen, the lady says.
The children are very excited to meet you, Your Majesty,
says Miss Rabbit.
I'm excited to meet all of you,
The Queen says, standing up.
And now for Miss Rabbit's medal.
Wow.
This is the Queen's award for industry. Keep up the good work. The Queen puts a shiny gold medal over Miss Rabbit's head. Cheers for Miss Rabbit, the Queen says. Hip hip!
Hooray!
Shout the children.
Hooray! Hooray!
Miss Rabbit and the children wear their boots to go out into the palace gardens with the Queen.
Do you play in your garden all the time, Your Majesty?
Danny Dog asks. I don't have time for playing, no, answers the Queen. She suddenly stops. Oh dear, a muddy puddle. Never mind, we can walk around it.
You can't walk around a muddy puddle,
Peppa says.
You have to jump in it.
Peppa shows the Queen how to jump up and down in a muddy puddle.
I say, that does look fun,
the Queen says. Here one goes then.
Stop!
Shouts Peppa. Everyone gasps.
If you jump in muddy puddles,
Peppa says,
you must wear your boots, Your Majesty.
The Queen goes inside and comes back with her boots on. Everyone loves jumping up and down in muddy puddles, including the Queen. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa Meets the Queen. Peppa and her family are watching television. Suddenly, there is a special announcement from the Queen.
The Queen, the Queen!
Peppa cheers.
Hello to you all,
The Queen says.
Today I have decided to give an award to the hardest working person in the country.
Wow.
The hardest working person in the country is Miss Rabbit.
At the supermarket, Miss Rabbit is closing the shop when Mr. Zebra the postman presents her with a golden letter.
Miss Rabbit, please come to my palace to get a medal for all your hard work. Bring friends, all the best, the Queen. I can't visit the Queen, I've got too much work to do.
Miss Rabbit panics.
Don't worry, Peppa says. The Queen has made it a holiday.
It is the day Miss Rabbit visits the Queen. Peppa and her friends are going too.
We're off to see the Queen, we're off to see the Queen. E-I-I-D-O, we're off to see the Queen. Here we are,
Miss Rabbit squeaks.
Wow.
Look at all the fancy stuff.
Woof, Danny Dog says.
Don't touch anything, Miss Rabbit warns.
Oh.
Where is the Queen?
Emily Elephant asks.
Queen, Susie Sheep calls. Where are you?
In another fancy room, there is a lady sitting on a throne knitting.
Oh.
Hello,
Peppa says.
have you seen the Queen today?
I am the Queen, the lady says.
The children are very excited to meet you, Your Majesty,
says Miss Rabbit.
I'm excited to meet all of you,
The Queen says, standing up.
And now for Miss Rabbit's medal.
Wow.
This is the Queen's award for industry. Keep up the good work.
The Queen puts a shiny gold medal over Miss Rabbit's head.
Cheers for Miss Rabbit,
The Queen says.
Hip hip, hooray!
Shout the children.
Hooray. Hooray.
Miss Rabbit and the children wear their boots to go out into the palace gardens with the Queen.
Do you play in your garden all the time, Your Majesty?
Danny Dog asks.
I don't have time for playing, no,
answers the Queen. She suddenly stops.
Oh dear, a muddy puddle. Never mind, we can walk around it. You can't walk around a muddy puddle,
Peppa says.
You have to jump in it.
Peppa shows the Queen how to jump up and down in a muddy puddle.
I say, that does look fun,
the Queen says.
Here one goes then. Stop!
Shouts Peppa. Everyone gasps.
If you jump in muddy puddles, Peppa says, you must wear your boots, Your Majesty.
The Queen goes inside and comes back with her boots on. Everyone loves jumping up and down in muddy puddles, including the Queen. The end. Peppa Pig, Grampy Rabbit's hovercraft. Grandpa Pig is taking Peppa and George out for the first time on his sailing boat.
Hello, old bean,
says Mr. Stallion.
Grandpa, that man just called you an old bean,
cries Peppa.
It's another way of saying old friend,
says Grandpa Pig.
Now, where did I leave my boat?
says Grandpa Pig.
What does your boat look like, Grandpa?
asks Peppa.
It has a little red flag on top of the mast,
says Grandpa Pig.
Like that little flag?
asks Peppa. Oh dear, Grandpa Pig's sailing boat has sunk.
Oh no!
Grampy Rabbit zooms past the boat.
What is that monstrosity?
Asked Mr. Stallion.
Is it allowed in the sailing club?
Asks Mrs. Corgi. Grampy Rabbit reaches Peppa and George.
Hello!
Shouts Grampy Rabbit.
What a marvellous day for sailing.
Hello, Grampy Rabbit,
says Peppa.
Grandpa Pig, you look sad,
says Grampy Rabbit.
What's the matter?
We can't go sailing because our boat has sunk,
says Peppa.
Why don't you hop onto my hovercraft?
Suggests Grampy Rabbit.
You can't drive that thing around here,
says Grandpa Pig.
You're not a member of the sailing club.
Well, you're a member, aren't you?
Replies Grampy Rabbit.
So I'm sure it will be perfectly fine.
Hooray!
Peppa, George and Grandpa Pig board Grampy Rabbit's hovercraft.
Hold on to your hats,
shouts Grampy Rabbit as they zoom across the sea. Grampy Rabbit's hovercraft can go on land and water.
Wow!
Mr. Stallion and Mrs. Corgi are enjoying a peaceful day sailing.
Oh, what is that horrible noise?
Cries Mrs. Corgi.
It's that monstrosity again,
says Mr. Stallion.
Whoopee! Ha ha!
Says Grampy Rabbit. Grampy Rabbit stops off at the Sailing Club Cafe to get some juice.
This is the life, eh?
Says Grampy Rabbit.
The sea and the sky and the boat sailing by.
Wow!
But the boats are not sailing by, Grampy Rabbit,
says Peppa.
There's no wind,
says Grandpa Pig.
Without wind, sailing boats can't sail.
Suddenly, they hear voices calling for help.
It's Mr. Stallion and Mrs. Corgi. We need to rescue them, Grampy Rabbit,
says Peppa. Grampy Rabbit zooms towards the shouting.
Ahoy there!
He calls.
We can't get back to the dock without the wind,
says Mrs. Corgi.
Toss me a line and I'll tow you back in,
says Grampy Rabbit. Grampy Rabbit's hovercraft tows the sailing boats back to shore.
We're towing the boats to shore, we're towing the boats to shore,
sings Grampy Rabbit.
We're towing the boats to the car park, towing the boats to B Park,
sings Grampy Rabbit.
Now you don't have to go so far to walk your cars.
But sailing boats don't go on land like hovercrafts,
gasps Grandpa Pig.
Grandpa Pig, who is your friend?
asks Mr. Stallion.
We must thank him for rescuing us.
His name is Grampy Rabbit,
replies Grandpa Pig.
Grampy Rabbit, delighted to meet you, old bean,
says Mr. Stallion.
You too, old bean,
replies Grampy Rabbit. The end. First words with Peppa Pig. Level 2, Mr. Fox's Van. Meet Peppa, Freddy Fox, and Mr. Fox.
Hooray!
Learn all, at, be, black, did, do, have, knew, there, they, under,
want, wait, read, things, banjo, rope, petrol, bike. Freddy Fox had a new bike and a new hat. The hat was black and white. Freddy went to see Peppa with the new bike and the new hat. He put on the black and white hat. "I have a new bike and a new black and white hat. They come from my dad's van," said Freddy Fox. "Do you have a bell on the bike?" said Peppa. "No, if I want a bell, my dad will have a new one in the van," said Freddy Fox.
Wow.
Mr. Fox has a lot of things in his van. They went to find Mr. Fox's van. Mr. Fox did have a new bell in the van. "I had a bell in the back under the hats," said Mr. Fox.
Wow.
"If you want a new thing, there will be one in the van." "Do you have a cup in the van?" said Peppa. Mr. Fox did have a cup in there. Mr. Fox had lots of cups at the back under the bikes. "You have a lot of things in the van," they all said. "If you want a new thing, there will be one in the van," said Mr. Fox. "Do you have a banjo in the van?" said Peppa. Mr. Fox did have a banjo at the back under the cups.
Wow.
"You have a lot of things in there," they all said. "If you want a new thing, there will be one in the van," said Mr. Fox. "Do you have a tree in the van?" said Peppa. Mr. Fox did have a tree in the van.
Wow.
"Do you want this tree? It was at the back, under the lamp," said Mr. Fox.
Wow.
"You have a lot of things in there," they all said. "If you want a new thing, there will be one in the van," said Mr. Fox. "Do you have a hen in the van?" said Peppa. Mr. Fox did have a hen in the van. "I've got this black hen in a white box. It was at the back under the clock," said Mr. Fox.
Wow.
"You have a lot of things in there," they all said. "If you want a new thing, there will be one in the van," said Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox and Freddy went to the van. "Mr. Fox has a lot of things in the van," said Peppa. "If you want a new thing, there will be one in the van," they all said. The van did not go. One thing Mr. Fox did not have in the van was petrol. "Do you have a rope in the van?" said Peppa. Mr. Fox did have a rope in the van. "I have a lot of things in the van, but I must have petrol too," said Mr. Fox. The end. Peppa Pig, Sleepy Princess. It's bedtime. What Peppa and George need is a special story to help them fall asleep. It is bedtime, but Peppa is not sleepy. "Can you tell us a story, Daddy?" "Of course," says Daddy. "As long as you promise to go to sleep straight after." "We promise," cries Peppa. Once upon a time, in a castle,
begins Daddy Pig, there lived a little princess called the Sleepy Princess.
Was the Sleepy Princess pretty?
asked Peppa. Yes, replies Daddy Pig. She loved looking at herself in the mirror all day long.
Who else was living in the castle?
asked Peppa. Well, says Daddy Pig. The others in the castle were the small prince, Queen Mummy, and King Daddy, says Mummy Pig.
Wow.
That's right, says Daddy Pig. And there was a dragon at the castle, continues Daddy Pig.
Dinosaur,
asked George. Oh yes, it wasn't a dragon, it was a dinosaur, says Daddy Pig. A huge, fierce dinosaur. Roar! cries George. Oh dear, says Mummy Pig. Maybe the dinosaur wasn't quite that fierce, Daddy Pig. Sorry, George, says Daddy Pig. No, the dinosaur was very gentle. He ate lots of grass.
Daddy,
says Peppa.
why was she called the Sleepy Princess?
I'm coming to that, said Daddy Pig. You see, it was night time. The stars and moon were out, and everyone got very, very sleepy. And the most sleepy of all was the Sleepy Princess. Daddy Pig turned Peppa and George's light out. King Daddy carried the Sleepy Princess to bed in the castle tower, and she fell straight to sleep. Thank you for that story, King Daddy, whispers Mummy Pig. You're welcome, Queen Mummy, whispers Daddy Pig. It seems our little prince and princess enjoyed it too, said Mummy Pig. Peppa and George are fast asleep. The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.